Good evening, YouTube viewers and subscribers. On my bench today is a recent purchase that, maybe I shouldn't have made. Bought this from RC Groups, from someone I never bought from before, but he had a good trader rating for the few trader ratings he had. But so anyway, I'm not all that pleased with this purchase now. The fellow refused to answer any questions that I asked about the history of this engine, where he got it, that type of thing. And there was only one picture on the ad, which was pretty small and really low quality. So I took a chance, I took a risk, and maybe I got burned, maybe I didn't. But anyway, let's get to looking at this engine. Needless to say, I won't be doing business with this fellow again anyway. So what I've got here is, as you can see, it's an MDS engine. And here are the instructions for it. And the instructions actually show an exhaust, although this is what I got, which I guess is gonna have to work. This is an MDS 148, another big boy two-stroke. But for well under $100, I figured, what the hell, I'll take a chance on it. Maybe I made a mistake. That's yet to be determined. But this box is in horrendous shape. Wasn't packed very well to begin with. Let's get right to this engine. And he says, this person that sold it claims it probably had never been run before, but that's what we're going to try and determine here, because this is a look inside. So there's really nothing else here in the box to look at. So this engine did not come with this big ass washer or this nut. These are just things that I found that fit it, that I put on there. So it didn't come with those items at all. It did come with this carb with a remote needle valve, which is slightly bent from the poor packaging, and this other carb, which for a 148 engine, this carb doesn't even look like it's the right one for the engine, to be honest with you. Maybe it's hard to tell, but that bore looks a lot bigger and the carb is a lot bigger. So this is a carb that is a free carb, I guess, because it doesn't go with that engine. Hell, I was lucky to find the two screws for this Bisson muffler. But anyway, let me pull in a little tighter here so you can get a little bit better look at this engine. Now, I'm thinking that this is a used engine and not never run as it was advertised, because I see red sealant under this carb, which is always a huge red flag to me. Now, it's a ringed engine. There's really no sign of carbon wear on the side of it. However, we are going to take a look inside of this engine, see if we can ascertain how much has been run, because to me it smells like it's been run. Okay, so obviously just taking the head off is not going to tell you whether or not an engine has been run or not. But the sleeve is coming off with this thing, which I'm not really sure I wanted that to happen. Really didn't want that to do that, but oh well. No, that does not seem to be wanting to come off at all. So let's just pull this thing out. Can't say that I've ever seen that before. There we go. Yeah, this engine's been run. Let's take this rear cover off. So, I'm seeing more sealant on here. I don't know that MDS would use red RTV on screws. So this is, I'm seeing a lot of red flags about this right now. No pun intended, although there was a pun there. So, I don't know, I don't have high hopes for this right now. I think this thing has got red sealant on it too. Yep. So clearly what moron owned this engine didn't seem to want to trust the O-ring here and put a whole bunch of red sealant crap on an engine that more than likely it did need to be put on there. So maybe that's why this fellow that sold this to me didn't want to answer questions, because maybe it would have indicted him as being a moron. But the shoe fits. Sometimes you're forced to wear it. Oh well, I'll clean that stuff off a little bit later on. Let's see if we can get this piston out of here, since the whole damn engine's coming apart anyway. But if you look inside, it doesn't really look too bad in there. It has an odd smell. It doesn't really smell like fuel residue, but it does have some sort of oil of some sort on there. Still like to see if I could get this piston to come off of here. Just doesn't want to seem to come off. Well, maybe that's alright. I thought the bearing felt kind of weird, but maybe it's okay too. As long as we're taking this thing apart, might as well take this carb off and clean this other crap off. That way at least I have a baseline for knowing whether the thing really leaks or not. More than likely, or more often than not, when I see stuff like this, people that use red sealant on a engine, it's because they don't really know what they're doing. Now granted, this is an MDS engine and quality can be quite sketchy on these. Maybe it is necessary to seal this engine up, but I was willing to give this engine the benefit of the doubt. But I've never had a quality engine that really required additional sealant. Well, this is why. This is why this is there. Because the fool, whoever owned this before, probably lost the O-ring. So we'll have to see if we can find an O-ring for that. But yeah, there's fuel residue in there, oil residue, I can tell. So this engine's been run. It's not new in the box. It isn't really as it was advertised, but this is what it is. So here eventually I'll get this on the stand, hopefully compare it to my other large two-stroke engines, and we'll see how this thing runs, see if this MDS engine has any better quality than some others I've seen before. Okay, so here's the engine all reassembled. I've got this exhaust that came with it on here like this because the other way I just can't mount it to a stand like that. So if I run this engine, I hoped I had another exhaust for a large engine that would fit, but I didn't. So when I run this, I'm going to have to run it like this. Now this won't interfere with the prop arc, it'll just interfere with the camera angle and, you know, a view of the engine, but it'll run like this. Now I did find an appropriate O-ring for the base of the carb, and I removed all that stupid ass red RTV sealant from all the screws and everywhere that it was on. And I did a test where I hooked up a fuel tank here and primed the engine, and it draws fuel quite well, so I know there's not a leak here or here. So why that sealant was put on there is beyond me. But this engine could be run very soon, so hopefully we'll get it on the stand here pretty quick. Okay, let me revisit this real quick. I didn't check all of my exhausts. I happened to find this exhaust that I have that actually came with my Aviastar 150 engine, and look at this shit. I'm super psyched now because this actually does fit here. I don't have to use this pit style exhaust inverted like I did. So now this engine at least looks a little more proper, and now I'm really kind of excited about trying to run this thing because it does have really strong compression, and I think this will be a good running engine. So now that I've got a much nicer looking exhaust, now we can be a little bit more excited about running this MDS engine.